It's time to talk NASCAR on Prime Sports Network. No delay, no rain out. We did know it was going to rain out last week. We told you. On Tuesday, we told you to get ready for a Monday race. And that's exactly what happened. So what's up with the rain at the end of April for these races at Dover?
Yeah, like 3 and 5 years, I think. Second straight. So I guess that part of the country tends to be wet in April. And I remember Dover, when it was a June date, didn't used to have these issues. So I think now that we've kind of condensed them down to one date a year, maybe they should revisit moving it back to maybe June, where it used to be, and might be able to have more favorable forecasts again.
Well, whatever the case is, look, the thing that really screwed, I think, fans, screwed me. Have you ever heard of a streaming and cable company called Spectrum?
Yes.
Okay, so you're familiar with it.
Well, I've just heard of it.
You've heard of it.
I've heard of it because the Charlotte Hornets, Bobcats at that point, wasn't their stadium called that? And I've seen, like, when we go to commercials or races down south, I've seen the commercials and stuff for the, is that a cable provider, something like that? But yeah, I've heard of it, yes.
Yeah, I think they used to be Charter, and now they're Spectrum. So since you're familiar with it, and like you said, they've got sponsorships, and you've heard of them and all that kind of stuff. Interesting that a company with that much money and influence around the country, that when there's a rain out very early on Sunday, they did not put the race in their guide at all. They didn't do it at 11:55. They didn't do it at 1. They didn't do it midway through the race or at the end of the race. All they had was their FS1 programming on the guide.
Huh.
And the reason that was terrible was because I couldn't record it.
Oh.
And I couldn't record it because of the fact that, like, every time it's the show, whatever the show was, one of those cable, I forget one of the names of the dudes on FS1. All right.
I heard with Colin Coward.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Colin Coward. All right, so I have to look for Colin Coward's show on Monday at 12 o'clock. Oh, there it is. I'll just record that. So I recorded that. 5 minutes into the race, I went to check, and I played the Colin just to make sure everything was working fine. What is it recording? The Colin Coward show. How? Oh, they switched it from FS1 to FS2. The show. So I'm now watching the show that was switched to FS2, and there's nothing I could do about it. Meaning that anytime I walked out of the room, whether it's for lunch or to do anything, I missed it. I had no so I missed more than half the race.
No.
I mean, and that means that anybody that had Spectrum was in the same boat as I was. And especially since it happened to be on a Monday, throw in the fact that you probably, first of all, they're already having issues with viewership. Throw in the fact it's a Monday and people, go to work and all that. And then they do this to the people like me. So,
wow.
They wonder why they have traffic and viewership issues.
Yeah, and you're in the prime NASCAR country down there. So, yeah, you got people that were home probably, maybe they're old school and don't have social media or don't know what's going on, and they just think the race isn't even on, and they don't even watch it. Like, in general, they don't even know. They're to this day like, what, March Shreks won? When do they race? So yeah, that's the problem. That is the problem.
Yeah, that's just really awful. And it just shows you that's just another example of why they're where they are right now. Then they throw the old, which I shouldn't say old because it's been new, this new qualifying metric. What was the second time they used it this year?
I think so. Yeah, I think there was another at least race or two that have been rained at, or race qualifying has been rained. Yeah.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong. This is what it says it is. The drivers finish in the most recent race, they take 25% of that. The car owners finish, which is always great. I love the owner stuff. The car owners finish in the most recent race. We'll take 25% of that. The car owner's position in the owner's standings. Well, we'll take 35% of that. And the rank of the driver's fastest lap in the most recent race at 15%. Who the hell came up with this nonsense, and what were they smoking?
Yeah, it's not a good. And I get when they did this during COVID because we weren't qualifying and they wanted to have it since you're kind of already four races into the season and you restarted and then you have these races and it's like you got to make it fair for some of these guys that aren't hampered down in the points, but they might be running well, but every week starting from the back. I get that. But now that we're back to qualifying, and that's not really an issue other than hit or miss races, it's like, can we just get back to points? If it's rained out, just starting on points.
I don't mind something like this or something like this because this is still stupid. Something like this early in the season because it's not fair, like especially after Daytona.
Oh, yeah.
With all that crap going on. If you, next race, sorry, you're starting 7 of the best drivers are starting 30th, between 30th and 40th because they wrecked at Daytona. Sorry about that. All right, I understand. But we're already into the certain part of the season where, hey, if you're not that good at this point, then it's not our fault.
No, and like I said before, it was just because we weren't qualifying at all. I mean, we were just showing up and racing. So now we're not doing that, so where it'd make a lot more sense to just go back on points. And that's the most easiest factor because IndyCar still does it on points. You just, hey, first in points, you're on the pole. Second in points, you're second. Or I would rather see them, let's say for like this past weekend, they practiced on Saturday. They just didn't get a chance to qualify. Can you not just start the race based off practice speed? Maybe reward them for practicing speeds. Then you have a strategy as well. Do I go long run speed or short run speed? It looks like I might ran out qualifying here in a little bit. Maybe we want to just run a hot lap real quick. But doing this metric stuff, you need a calculator. It's like fastest. How do I go back and find the fastest laps of the race and see where they were the weekend before? And then now I got to take in the owner's points and the driver. Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
It's just too much. Yeah. It is. It's way too much.
Okay. So I think it was Wednesday last week when we heard the news about Bowman, or was it Tuesday night after the show?
I think it was Wednesday.
All right. So Bowman gets into an accident in this sprint crash. I don't even know where to start as far as the stupidity of this, especially after what happened to Chase. I don't understand how the owner, people who run this organization, without the accident happening, didn't foresee this possibility. This isn't tennis. This isn't even, even the accident Chase had was I'd allow that more than I would. Oh, just go racing in some other series with drivers that aren't anywhere near qualified as you, and put you in one of those ridiculous looking cars that could easily injure you if something like that happens, which is exactly what did take place. You can blame Bowman or Elliott. No, blame yourself. Blame yourself for not already putting this into your contracts. So what's come about? What's the latest? Did they make a statement? Tell me they made a statement, and tell me they're coming to their senses.
They're starting to. They said they're not going to take any rash changes yet, but if it happens again, they said they will have to.
If it happens again.
And well, Larson's running that series still. It's his series. I will say the drivers in that sprint car series that Larson runs are like A-list.
Yeah, they're professional, sure.
Yeah, they're
professional
good
sprint drivers, but they're not. Yeah. They're not
but
still the cream of the crop. They're not NASCAR. They're not Cup drivers.
No, and there's some guy. Bowman would probably be on the low end of the sprint car guys.
Experience-wise,
sprint car guys are pretty good. Not even that, just maybe talent. I mean, there's some good sprint car drivers that are. Yeah, there's some good guys in this, but when you run a dirt, there's a good chance of this happening. And this is a reason why Joe Gibbs and a lot of people are giving him a lot of backlash for not letting Christopher Bell run on dirt anymore. He signed a new contract, and the new contract had provisions of him not doing this.
Who was that?
This is Joe Gibbs.
Okay. And they gave Gibbs a problem for that?
They did. A lot of people are like, why would you not let Christopher Bell race? And he, but the driver's side right now is saying, we don't have as much practice anymore. We don't have a lot going on inside the car. Simulation can only get you so far. If I could run these races that I'm used to running on my way up, it keeps me fresh, keeps my hand-eye coordination, it keeps my body in shape. It just keeps me focused for my day job, showing up to the racetrack in a cup car. So I get that. I totally get that. However, it's the injury thing that could happen, and we've seen it now. Now, granted, Chase's wasn't in a car, but Hendrick used to have a line in the sand. He didn't let his drivers run outside a cup because I always point to, look at Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson for most of their careers with Hendrick Motorsports. How many times did you even see him running an Xfinity race? They were mostly just cup only. And his philosophy was, I'm paying you handsomely to drive that cup car. I'm not paying you to drive outside that. If you get hurt outside of this cup car, then I don't have to pay you as well. Hendrick pays really well to the drivers. So he never let his drivers race outside that. Insert Kyle Larson. He took that chance on Larson in 2020 to bring him on board for the 2021 season. Larson's big thing was he still wanted to run dirt. And Jeff Gordon, who was now running a lot of the day-to-day operations for Hendrick, was on Larson's side, talked Rick into it, and there we go. That's what opened the door to Chase running what he does now, and Bowman, and even Byron getting outside of his comfort zone, or him going back to late models and running. So it kind of opened Pandora's box. However, I feel like now they got to take a look at that again. Like, oh, look, we got our drivers signed for the future. We've got all four locked in. Now we got to keep them locked in on their cup team now because, look, it's affecting them. I mean, Alex Bowman and Chase, look, let's just say they don't want to race this regular season. Bowman's out at least this weekend and next. That's 2 more races. I believe he's 43 points above the cut line, so there's a good chance when he comes back, he's below the cut line. How far? It could be pretty far if he misses this whole month, even the 600 at the end of the month. So let's say he's behind, which he probably will be. Elliott's already behind. Let's say neither of them win a race. They're not in the playoffs with a very good cars. Those are 2 cars for the New York Yankees of NASCAR.
Championship.
Yeah,
contenders.
That you're not in because of self-inflicted mistakes outside the car. So I think Hendrick's got to take a look at this and be like, look, can you guys get focused here? We've proven. We've had, and of course, you got to look at race 2. I'd be mad, like, I can't get my cars legal. It seems like every race are getting taken back to R&D. We're failing inspection. And even still, we're coming back, and we're still leading laps, and we're still winning races. We've won 4 of the 11 races so far. You take the points penalties out of things, we are the championship favorite.
If they didn't have the accidents and the penalties, they'd be running 1 through 4.
Oh, they'd be running away with it.
Yeah.
But here's the other factor, too, I look at is somebody might say, well, just win a race. Bowman Elliott win a race. That's all good and well. Let's say they win a race. They should. Those are championship-level cars. People forget that the top 10 at the end of the regular season gets playoff points for the playoffs. You get additional bonus points. They're more than likely not getting the top 10 now. Elliott's not. There's no way he's going to get in the top 10 in points. And Bowman keeps sliding back every week now that he's not in that car. So, and now with Larson running this dirt car series still, he's in Indiana. He just popped in an IndyCar today to do a seat fit for next year's Indy 500. And he's running in Kokomo, I think, tomorrow night. So what happens if he gets hurt now? And, I mean, I feel like he's tempting fate because look how many bad crashes he's had these last few weeks in the Cup side. And now you're going to hop in a sprint car. It's equally not as safe as that. So they could be in some trouble with they could themselves, for stuff outside of the Cup car, be taking themselves out of the championship. And that's not good. That's opening the door to others, and they got to fix this soon.
It's almost like, you know what, maybe that's exactly what needs to happen in order for them to learn the lesson.
I think so. I think so. They almost need to learn the lesson because I don't think it's going to change. And like Chase Elliott said last week, and I saw his quotes, and he was saying if these injuries didn't, what was he? I'm trying to look for it. Basically, if they didn't occur back to back, so close together, then we really wouldn't be talking about this. If they were like a year apart, like if Chase got hurt this year and Bowman next year, we really wouldn't be talking about it. But I still think we would, because that'd be still 2 times you're taking yourself out of a car that could win a championship, because every point still matters. I know the regular season, we talk about winning and the onus on that, and we're going to have, really to get in the playoffs, you're going to have to win, but you forget the aspect of the top 10 in points.
Yep.
That's still a thing. And we see in the playoffs, making it from one round to the other can come down to a single point or two. Those playoff points that you carry with you could be that difference. And if you don't get them in the regular season and then beat in the top 10, you're really giving yourself no shot. Christopher Bell last year, I looked it up, was the only driver outside the top 7 in the points going into the playoffs that even made it to the championship 4. So these guys are going to be playing from behind, and the trend shows since 2014. Nobody's made it outside the top 10 into the championship 4, and that's where these guys are going to end up. There's just no way they're going to get even higher because of where they are in points. So they're really shooting themselves in the foot the more and more time they miss. So really, I mean, you see it in stick and ball sports. You see these other athletes like, hey, during the season, I am locked in. I'm not going out.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go out to dinner at this place. I'm not going to go out with my friends at this place.
Exactly.
I don't
understand.
For a championship.
What is everybody's in the same boat? It's not like, well, if I don't do this, if I don't do these other races during the season to keep my hand and eye coordinations in check, well, yeah, but nobody else is doing it, or nobody else should be doing it. So all you're doing is you're trying to maybe get an advantage. So sorry, advantage taken away. So
and there's other forms you can do your
yes. It doesn't have to be racing. Exactly. Yeah. Just go play squash or something. You know, I mean, that's pretty. You have to be pretty quick with your coordination playing something like that. So just
there's the touch screen things and tennis balls. I mean, and people tend to forget too. And I get it. They're taking. And I go back to the Priest and the Larson crash in Talladega, and this is concerning. I get it. It is concerning, the car, that impact. But I think it also needs a reminder, which just goes across the board for racing. Racing is dangerous. It doesn't matter what you're racing. There is nothing safe about hopping in a vehicle and traveling at the speeds they're traveling with walls around you.
Yes.
What part of that do you think is safe?
Yeah.
So then you throw in factors like dirt, which makes your car feel like you're driving on ice, and cars that are designed that they could flip. It's like, at what part of that do you think is safe? There is nothing safe about racing. You're never going to make this a safe sport.
They think they're vulnerable. Aren't. They think they're unvulnerable. They're young. That's why Hendrick is supposed to be don't let people talk you into it. You're the boss. You've got all these years of experience. They're wrong. Let them know they're wrong. And you shouldn't be doing, well, we'll give them one more chance. No, you had to be talked into this to begin with by people who were not more experienced than you. Shut it down.
Well, there's a reason, and Larson was, I wouldn't have won my championship in 21 without, okay, cool, that's fine, you got one. How am I going to get the rest of the time? This is where we got to look back, and we can look ahead 5, 6, 7 years down the road. If you still have that one championship, but you've also had a rash of injuries, how far did that really get you? Chase Elliott, you got one championship. You haven't won since. How far is that going to get you? Alex Bowman, you've never won a championship. What if you look down the road? What if this was supposed to be your season and you just got hurt? So, yeah, I would.
So is Byron the only smart one?
He still runs, but he runs late models, but they're on pavement. So,
but he's still doing it.
He's still doing it. Yep. So I don't. If I was them, I think if I was Byron right now, I know Larson's got financial and contractual obligations because he runs the series and promoting it himself racing. But if you were wise, like, look, I'm just going to sit this out the rest of the year as far as any extracurricular. I am locked in. I mean, you don't see I go back to it just because I didn't like him as a player because I was a Colts fan, but you don't see Tom Brady going surfing in the middle of the NFL season, do you?
No.
That guy was locked in.
Yeah.
You don't see Michael Jordan when he was playing out doing reckless stuff. Yes, he would golf and he would gamble, but those aren't against his health. He wouldn't do anything that wasn't locked in on winning a championship. Those are why those guys were the greats. And especially now, you just got to be locked in. That's what it takes. And that's what I'm teaching my kids now as they're playing sports. And I got my oldest that I taught him is, look, if you're sitting inside watching TV, which I'm okay with, you're 9 years old. You can decompress for a little bit, but I'm just going to teach you the minute you're in here, not working on your game in basketball or baseball, there's another kid that is. This world is round, and there's other time zones. The minute you're sleeping, when you're sleeping, there's kids around the other side of the world that are working on their game. When you're playing your Nintendo, there's another kid working on his game. Anything you do against that is not working on your game, somebody else is. And by the time you get up, they could have more skills than you because they worked on it. That's what you got to have to be successful in sports.
And you have to, like you said, though, it's a matter of, I'm letting you know how what the game plan is for success. It's up to you.
Yep.
You want to do it? You want to follow? Go ahead. But if you don't want to do it, that's your decision. Just don't go complaining 2 or 3 years from now.
Exactly. You got to be locked in. That's sports. That's not just racing. That's every sport. And the minute you're out, and I get it. You have to. It's a grind. I mean, a Cup Series, it's 36 weeks. You do have to have a time to yourself, but you got to have some time to yourself that's not going to get you injured from your day job.
I mean, please. I mean, some of these guys, aren't they married? Don't they have like girlfriends that they could spend their time with? I mean, that doesn't excite them enough?
Larson, and I get, I think it was Kyle Busch a few years ago said, and I get him saying that, because people ask, well, why do you run the trucks? Why do you run Xfinity? It's like, well, some people like to golf. Some people like to hunt. Some people like to go fishing. My hobby's racing. That's all I've ever known. I get it. But those sports aren't probably going to get you injured like this is. And granted, you could be playing a pickup basketball game. Denny Hamlin tore his ACL doing that.
Yeah, well, no, I wouldn't even recommend that. No, yeah. Look, you're not 60. Go get another hobby.
Yeah.
There's a tons of other different things that you can learn. You don't have to just be so narrow-minded and go, well, this is what I love. There's other things. Go try out 100 other things, and there's got to be something else that you like that's not that dangerous.
No, and then stick to ball sports. I mean, these NFLs, they don't have these guys during the week doing anything stupid to potentially risk them in because they're afraid somebody will come up and take their spot. They're locked in. Why aren't race car drivers locked in? These are good athletes we're talking about here to drive these cars that, those extracurricular stuff. It's like there's other training you can do to stay sharp if that's what it is. And I get it. I know that it sells tickets to have Kyle Larson run the dirt show, but is it worth the risk, especially now? I mean, I think we could say this far into the season now, we're almost we're almost halfway through the regular season. I think the favorites are the 4 Hendrick cars to win the championship in Phoenix right now. They've done enough to tell me those are your favorites. If they don't win it, it's because of these factors, you only have yourself to blame.
Yep. They're still, they still have the 3 of them are still at the top of the odds, futures-wise, I believe. So, and then as well they should be. But, they'll have nobody else to blame but themselves if they can't.
Well, you got to look at an example. And one of the reasons I'll tease ahead of ourselves, I didn't choose Chase Elliott for this weekend, is he's been back for 3 weeks. 3 very good tracks for him these last 3 weeks. Talladega, Martinsville, Dover. He's really good at those places. He doesn't even have a top 5 in those races. So he's hurt himself coming. It's like Bowman. He's out for, they said, at least 3 to 4 weeks.
Which could mean 2 months before he gets his groove again, if he does.
He's not, and he's not in the car giving data back to help this car get better for down the road later in the season. They're not getting that. It's very troublesome for not just when they come back, but for the future, because this weekend, Kansas, it's a playoff track. Bowman's not going to be in the seat to give you playoff data for it. So, there's a lot of factors, not just short-term, but long-term that they're missing out on.
I used to date a girl named Pandora.
Oh, did you?
Did you ever see that movie Notting Hill?
I haven't.
That's why you didn't get the joke.
No.
It's actually the actor in that is just some really major goofball, and the main star knows better. But the guy was, tell me what the problem is. Tell me what the problem is. He goes, well, it seems like I just opened Pandora's box and I can't close it. Something like that. And the guy goes, I dated a girl named Pandora in high school. Like, that's idiotic. Like, he just didn't get it. You would know it if you saw it. Anyway.
I've never seen it.
Very good movie. Notting Hill. You know what I'm talking about if you saw it. It's with that English actor, that very popular English actor. Forget his name, though. But anyway, we totally regress on that one. We have now an opportunity because, look, I didn't watch half of the race because I couldn't. Give me some of the highlights of. I watched most of the second half, but what happened early? Because I know I could tell there were quite a bit of cautions early on.
Yeah, there's a lot. It was a messy first stage. The big incident was Chastain made a mistake. He got in, he didn't blow up enough, and got in the back of Brennan Poole, a back marker, and sent him spinning in turn one. And Larson was coming and had nowhere to go. He was up top, didn't even see it. And when Poole spun up, there was Larson, kind of similar to that Talladega Priest incident. Just ran into him, ended his day early. So everybody was giving, obviously, Chastain blame there, and he took responsibility for it. So that was kind of the main thing in the first stage, and the rest of the way is pretty clean. Other than Logano wrecking in the end. So it was a messy first stage that almost took an hour and a half, and then the second stage was clean, and the final stage, it became about strategy and kind of your old school tire wear, not a ton of cars on a lead lap, pitch strategy type deals. It was like an old school NASCAR race that I frankly like. I don't like these cars that you can't pass and all on top of each other, and they could pass there. The tires are wearing. Byron had a really good short run car, and the longer the run went on, he got loose, the tires wore, and he faded, and he had guys come up and guys fade back and other guys come back up again. So
do you think Chastain would have caught Truex before the last caution came out?
I do. I feel like he had the better car. I feel like it didn't matter how Larson tried to slow him down, even though he was like 42 laps down, and then Ty Gibbs kind of hopped in there. He always still found his way back to Truex's bumper. I think they would have caught lap traffic at the right time. We know Chastain's aggressive. He did it at Martinsville last year. He obviously can't do that kind of move again, but I also see him getting in a corner and holding the throttle down and maybe braking as late as he can and trying to make it work. So I do think he probably would have passed him in one.
And I missed the tire exchange, the last one. Did everybody take two?
Except Chastain. He took four.
Why did he do that?
I don't know. I feel like, I get it was the safer play, but he also should have known that there wasn't going to be that many laps left. That four tires has kind of proven that
you need 50 laps before it becomes
if it was a longer than, but for 6 or 7 laps when you go back green, it got you to second, but you just didn't have that clean air. I think if he would have taken 2 tires
and started on the front row,
I do think he would have won. I just think that little bit, because he caught him again. It was just that little bit, and it sounds like Chastain and Truex are getting along now off the track. So I don't think he could have ran. Now, it took that little bit of time to shed Blaney to get into second, and then once he did, he kind of set sail, but he just didn't have enough time. So I think if he restarted in the front row, we all know what he probably would have done on that restart. He probably would have taken the lead. So it cost him. That did cost him.
All right, let's preview the race at Kansas. Once again, the AdventHealth 400. So I don't know how long they've been sponsoring this race, but at least for a few years, right?
A few years. Yeah, I think a few years.
And they know how to put a logo together. Mm-hmm. Nice, big logo that everybody can see clearly. And as we look at our pick options. Oh, you know what? By the way, the other thing I wanted to talk about before we end last week, our discussion on last week, we had one of our viewers, Bobby Ferguson, who, by the way, out of his predictions, out of the drivers that he picked, he did have Truex in there. And he had a couple of comments. One was that he does the $100 a week for fun. We do 100.
Yeah.
And so he knows exactly what we're talking about. He says he's down for $447 for the year. He says he's never had a losing season. So, he understands exactly what we're doing. Also, want to appreciate his comment that because he actually said in one of his other messages that he doesn't get a chance because we had the live show. He says he didn't get a chance to see the live show, but he looks forward to the shows each week as he drives around doing his job, whatever that is. So we appreciate Bobby's comments and the fact that we help make his day go by fast.
Yeah. Thank you, and safe travels as you're listening to this.
Yeah.
Whatever day that might be. Thank you for listening and always commenting. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah. Again, we had the live show last week. We will continue doing live shows. This week was just too crazy with the Monday and too much going on because we have to make sure if we commit to a specific time that we're going to be able to do it. So we weren't completely sure about it, but we will continue to do the live shows so we can continue to interact with you guys live. Anybody that gets the opportunity to do that, that's great. Because one of the other things I was able to do is figure out, because I all this is just new as far as me putting this all together. I just wanted to make sure we were live. But there was another thing that I didn't do that I needed to do, and that was to record the show so that I could repost the show. So I wasn't able to repost it last week, but now I know what I have to do in the future. So anyway, that's just me thinking out loud. Because it's always beneficial to have the show reposted at Playbook or have the show reposted on the weekend for anybody that may not have seen it. And by the way, we've been getting, as we've said before, the traffic has been nice. We've been getting 400, 500, 600 a week on average just for the show. What I do want to say though is if you guys are, let's say there's a few hundred of you guys that watch our show every week, it would really be awesome if you guys could press the like button. I don't push this as much as I should, but I should. I know we talk about subscribing and things of that nature, but when I see that we have like say 10 likes a week and there's hundreds of people that continuously watch us, if you like it, all you gotta do is press it, and that helps. It helps us with overall the algorithms on YouTube. It helps them to push out the show more. The more you guys push the like button on the show, then they'll push it out more and we'll be able to get more viewers. So if you can do that, that would be great. Because I know you guys, for whatever reason, we're not, we also haven't been pushing the thanks button. But again, you can use the thanks button if you like. That's when you could donate to the show. But even if you can't do that, just by even just using that like button, all that kind of stuff is really important and really cool for the growth of the show. All right. So let's get started with, as we always do, by talking about our identical picks. We only, believe it or not, we only have one.
Oh.
Yes. One driver. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I don't think I've ever seen this. And maybe this is just a sign of the times. I have no idea. But there's only one driver that we've all collectively picked that was a longer shot than 18-1. And that was your choice of Ty Gibbs. So usually we can get 2 or 3 of those identical long shots in there. But since we basically had no long shots except your pick of Gibbs, it made it a little bit harder. So who do you think we all picked?
I'm going to say Reddick.
No.
I know you haven't been choosing the
I was the one who did not pick Reddick. We'll get into that. I could not take
Kyle?
7-1.
Kyle?
No.
No?
Kyle, who?
Bush.
You didn't even take him.
Oh, that's right. I didn't have enough money. I took them off. I was trying to think. I took them off. That's right. Gosh. Bell?
You only had 7 picks.
Yeah, I said there was so many top heavy. They didn't do a good job of separating the top heavy ones.
CJ
Bell?
did not take Bell.
Byron?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. William Byron. The only driver we all collectively took. Because if you look at the odds, Larson and Byron are both 5-1. And what really did it for me to separate, because I wasn't going to take them both, unless I was going to put 50 each on them. But the reason why I decided to take Byron really over Larson was just, look, I still think overall, I think, especially now that he's had a couple of good back-to-back finishes, that he's having a better season than Larson. Yep. He dominated Las Vegas, which we know is important to the comparison of Kansas. And he led 57 laps in the fall of 2021 here. And last year led 9 laps and 25 laps in the 2 races for a combined 34, finishing 6th and 16th. Whereas Larson, he won that fall race, by the way, in 2021, leading 130 laps, and led 132 laps the same year in the spring, finishing 19th. Last year, 2nd and 8th, so pretty similar, a little bit better than Byron. But again, to me, it was just, and by the way, Larson was solid at Vegas too, finishing 2nd, leading 63 laps. It was just, I like the fact that he dominated Vegas, and I just think he's a little bit better right now than Larson, and that's what did it for me.
Yeah, I mean, they've both been running well. This is definitely going to be a Hendrick versus, I'm going to say Toyota, because 2311 won both races at Kansas last year, because as you said, Vegas, Byron and Larson went 1-2, I believe, in both stages. Yeah, in both stages that day. And in fact, you throw Alex Bowman in stage 2, and then in the end, they were 1-2-3. I mean, they were just untouchable in Vegas. And Vegas is going to be the closest comparison to Kansas. So if they look good there, I don't know why they wouldn't look good here. However, Toyota's won 5 of the last 7 races at Kansas, including 7 of the last 12, or 5 of the last 7, 7 of the last 12. They swept last year. They went 1, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the spring race, and 1, 2, 3, 5 in the fall. They led 265 of 534 laps, including 171 of 267 in this race. So that led me to believe you're looking at Toyota versus Hendrick this week. And I just couldn't see, because Larson, if you remember right, was going to win Vegas, if not for that late race caution. That race was his to win. And then they came down pit road, Byron beat him off, Byron ran the race, even though he had more laps led, but Larson was going to win. So I just couldn't separate those two. I thought with them being even odds, I'm like, I really just can't favor one or the other. So as a result of going with both, it cost me from the Kyle Bushes and those further back. So
yeah, because you put nearly half of your money on both of them. And I put nearly half of you put 44, 22 each. I put 40 on Byron. So we basically did the same thing almost by making sure that we had almost half of our money invested on those two drivers. And CJ put 46 on both total.
Yeah, and that's unfortunately the nature of this season being so unpredictable. Like we talked about last week with guys just stealing wins, it's hard to go all in on drive. I just wish we could, like we used to be able to, especially when you put 2 guys at 5-1. It's like, Vegas isn't giving you very good options here. And NASCAR's not doing themselves any favor with the way these races are ending. So it's just increasingly harder and harder to bet on the sport right now because of this. Because it's like, look, there's no separation between these two. And if you take one, just because I don't feel good about how the season's gone, I know I wanted to go all in on both of them. But I know if I go all in on both of them, neither of them are win. If I go all in on one of the two, the other one's going to win. So it's just the way it's gone. So I just thought, let's get a win out of the way. At least if one of them wins, I got them both. But yeah, there's just not really any separation between them right now.
As far as qualifying, it does matter. The last 6 winners have started in the top 10 including on the pole and second spot. And this is a track, just like last week, this is a track where, if there's a late caution, you could see a two-tire exchange. And the way the season's gone, that could be exactly what happens late in this race. Okay, so now there's Truex and Reddick here, and you put money on both. CJ put money on Reddick. I stayed away from both. I stayed away from Reddick. I just didn't like the odds. Now, I know he was solid last year here. He led laps in both races, but his finishes, whether you want to say it's just coincidence, it's bad luck, it's still 30th and 35th. It is what it is. And no, not for me at 7-1. If you're giving me 10 or 12 to 1, I'll consider it. Maybe I'll do it, but not at 7. And Truex, I'm staying away from the back-to-back deal. Not to say he can't do it, because he's been really solid here. 11 top 10s in his last 12. 6 of those top 5s are runner-up. His sweep was in 2017, so he hasn't won here since 17. And he was 6th and 5th last year. So we know he's good here. But at 7-1, it's just, to me, it's working against me with the back-to-back wins. But why'd you go with Reddick?
Well, I went with Reddick, and again, I agree with you. I don't like these odds. I just wish this is where, again, the odds makers make this where you got to go all in like a driver or two. When NASCAR is not, it's hard to find out of 36 charter teams, find 2 drivers. That's kind of where they're putting you in a box already. These 2 should not be 7-1. However, their stats could say they are, because Reddick, the reason I went with him, yes, his finishes don't tell the whole story.
Sure.
He wrecked while leading both those races. He was winning the race both times. So he's been good there. Plus, the car he's driving is actually the car that won both races last year. It was the 45 car. Kurt Busch won in it in May. And oddly enough, Bubba Wallace was in the 45 car in the fall race and won in it. So why not 3 straight races for the 45 car with 3 different drivers? That's why I went that route. Because if he was good in the 8 car, what could he do in the 45? Similar to what we talked about with Coda. Hey, he was good in that car last year, but now he's with his 45 in Toyota. What could he do? And he won. So I thought, again, for his stats, 7-1 feels steep, and it doesn't feel right to me with Vegas. Like, hey, let's front load all these guys. Let's put all these guys that should win at 5 and 7-1, and make you pick the one. It's just so difficult to do. But I just, again, I was looking for a win, so I took him, and I agree with you on Truex. So he went 54 races without a win. Is he really going to win 2 straight weeks, let alone in 6 days? I looked it up. He's gone back-to-back once in his career. 2019, he won Vegas, and then 6 days later, he won Richmond. Here we are, 6 days later, on a track that he statistically has been good at. He's got a top 10 and all but one Kansas start since 2017. As you said, pair of top 6s last year. He was 7th in Vegas in the spring race. So I thought, I could see him. And sometimes you've seen it too. All it takes is a win, and then you start rattling them off. Now you've got the monkey off your back. Now here you go.
Yeah.
So,
well, I was glad that I invested. Look, I invested in him pretty much the last several weeks when he was at 20-1 on the futures.
Yeah, we talked about that. All it's going to take is one win, and it's going to drop.
That's right.
That's what happened. So, I went that way, but it just doesn't feel right. And I get it. Yeah, you're going to put your favorites up top. I get it. But when you have 4, I could make a case like I just did for all 4 to win, and they're all within 5 and 7-1. It's like, how are you going to get people to bet on this race when it'd be like putting all the NBA teams like, they're all going to be right here within 2 points of each other, and you just figure out the one.
Well, out of those 6, including Bell and Hammond at 8, I don't think we're going to, I think we're going to see at least 2 drivers 10-1 or more from that group. Because once qualifying's over. Because I think before the race starts, we're not going to see 6 drivers between 5 and 8-1.
No.
So
this is one you'll have to bet after. And going to those next guys, Hamlin, because you have to start looking for flaws and eliminate. And it was hard. You could say Will Larson's had bad luck, but you look at the races he's finished, like last week, he had a fast car. He just can't, or yesterday, I should say. He can't help it. A car spun in front of him. He just has had bad luck, but
third
he's
in
been
his
good
last
there.
4 races, finishing over 30th.
Yep, that's what makes it tough, but he's had fast cars. So in Talladega, we knew he wasn't going to be anything in Talladega. But Hamlin at 8-1, and he made a good point. Hey, second and fourth last year? Yeah, the only drivers in the last 11 races that won multiple times in Kansas, fourth and second respectively. However, again, you can't take them all. And when he says his pit crew, I believe it was 90% of the time he feels when he comes to pit road, his crew is going to lose some spots.
Oh yeah, they're not doing it this year.
No, that's a problem. And
well,
so
it's good that he said something, because that's what we said about Blaney. Sooner or later, you got to say something. Hamlin knows better because he's 10 years older than Blaney. So Blaney better pick up on this, because that's what you have to put it back on your pit crew, because they haven't earned it yet.
Yeah, and he called him out. And so you have that, and Hamlin's been known to speed on pit road. And then even though this year he's having, in his defense, he knows, when I pull into that box, I'm losing spots. So I have to push the envelope coming into the box and leaving the box. I have to. I've got to make up that lost ground. Well, it's into speed. So you got even more of a factor. So, and as you said at the start, Kansas is known to get you a late race restart. And if pit strategy comes into play, Hamlin has proven, and he just said it yesterday, that the pit crew is a problem. So I look at that as a flaw to where I stayed away from him, even with his finishes there last year. Is we've seen clean air be a thing this year, and we saw Vegas was hard to pass again. If he has that one bad pit stop and he's kind of mired back in deep air, I don't think he's going to get it back. So, and in the other flip side, if he has to take it more carefully on pit road, he might lose spots even more. So I thought for 8-1, with him staying that, I'm staying away. Bell, he qualifies good there, so I mean, he might be one you might want to grab early, because some of these other guys, they might fall, but he scored his first Xfinity race win there, 10th, 8th, and 3rd his last 3 races, playoff races there, 5th in the spring last year, 5th in Vegas this year. It just seems like he's running better. This is a good track for him. So out of all those guys, like, Hamlin will be the one I punt on, and I'll take Bell, Reddick, Truex, Byron, Larson, and
top 6.
I feel like your winners. Yeah, I feel like those guys right there, the winners in it.
Probably.
I just feel, especially at a track like this, I feel like the winners there. But we've seen how these NASCAR races go at the end. You could get a caution. Those guys play it safe. Josh Berry's going to take 2 tires and he's going to win the race. It's just, that's how these things have gone.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you're winning at the top. There's a reason. I just wish they would have created a little more separation with them up top.
Well, again, that's why, as you said, this is a race that you should. I think we talked about qualifying is important anyway. And I went with instead of putting money on Truex and Reddick or even Larson, I put it both on Bell and Hamlin. I actually put a little bit more on Hamlin because of the fact, sort of like what happened last week with Truex. To me, the reason I did this, he's got in the first 7, 8 races, no top 5s. He's got 2 top 5s last 3. It's like he's overdue, just like Truex in my mind. There's no way Denny Hamlin at this point in the season would have no wins. And we could have said the same thing as we did with Truex. It wasn't like he dominated last week, but had a good week, got some luck, held off, won the race. I just think that Denny's time's coming. And, and I hope it comes in a situation like this where I don't have to worry about the odds being 5-1. Because 8-1 is okay for Denny Hamlin. It's not great, but it's okay, especially considering the fact that he's had 3 wins here, including 2 wins since 2019. And as you mentioned, finished 2nd and 4th last year, even though he hasn't led a lap here in the last 3 races. But he is driving a Toyota. And as we said, that's also very important.
Yep.
And by the way, CJ took Hamlin and not Bell. So you took Bell, he took Hamlin, I took them both. All right, now, as far as the top contenders, as I said, I did not take Chastain. You guys both did. I was close to taking him. And the reason I was close to taking him was the same reason I took him last week. But because it's the season it is for me, I couldn't get the win last week. Of course, the late caution comes out, and he takes 4 tires. So, but I'm already used to it now, so I'm not even getting upset over it anymore. So I can see why you would take him. I just rolled the dice a little bit and went in another direction with the next 2 drivers that I'll talk about. But Chastain, 7th in both races last year, again, almost won last week. So I could see why, because to me, again, what I was saying was just like last week, it's a bargain number. You're getting him at a good price at 14-1 for a driver that has, 3 top 5s in his last 6 races and runner-up last week.
Yeah, that's the only reason why. He's the points leader. You're getting the points leader for 14-1. And he wasn't great last year. I mean, he said 7th in both races. That's a solid day. 12th in Vegas scared me a little bit because they didn't look like his old, because Vegas last year he was really good. Vegas this year he was 12th. So it scared me a little bit. But as you said, 100 laps, nearly 100 laps just yesterday, and runner-up. I just feel, given the points leader at 14-1, it felt good to take him. I would have rather taken Kyle Busch, who we'll get to, but again, it was the points leader at 14-1. That sold it for me, so that's why I went in his direction.
Yeah, because Kyle's, again, what to like about him was just like last week, you're getting good odds at 16-1. He's had a decent history here with 10 top 5s in 30 races, couple of wins, 3rd last year in this race. Didn't fare all that great at Vegas, and he's kind of been hit or miss, to tell you the truth. He's still not as consistent as you would like. That could be coming, but he does have 2 wins on the season, which is a big step up from the disappointing season last season. But for me, I just, I haven't really been having luck with Kyle this year, so I just decided to pass on him. But CJ actually put some money on Kyle.
And like I said, I almost did too, because remember I said about Reddick. Reddick was leading when he crashed in the same car last year. So in RCR as a whole, Austin Dillon, I didn't take him because, again, I was out of plenty by the time I got that far down. 100-1, 10th in both races in 2021, 11th in the 2020 playoff race, and 13th and 14th last year, which to me is very solid for Austin Dillon. So RCR has had a pretty good package there. Reddick crashed both races last year while leading, and Kyle Busch won in May of 2021 there. His brother won the race last year, so maybe Busch just keeps the Busch name winning the spring race at Kansas. So 16-1 was a good number on him. I like it better than Chastain, but Chastain has better success here recently. I know Kyle won Talladega, but Chastain's been more consistently up front, and you get the points leader for 14-1. So that was the only differential between the two, or I would have liked to have them both.
All right, now we'll get to actually 2 out of the 3 at 18-1 that I put the remaining $20 on my 100, and I went with Blaney and Wallace over Harvick. Harvick, I just didn't like the combination that he hasn't done well here recently. Last year was pretty bad, and then his last 3 races, 19, 21, 20. That's not good. He's got a pretty good history here with 3 wins and 12 top 5s and all that, and he's led almost 1,000 laps, and you're getting 18-1. But I just figured that combination was, all right, maybe I could take a week off so then he could win this week. Blaney and Wallace, though, I went with Blaney last week, and we talked about it. It was the odds. It was these are the type of drivers that have been winning, and he had a very successful week. Even though he didn't win, he was there. And I don't think anybody thought he was going to be contending for the win last week. And and he's better this week at this track, and he's still getting 18-1. So I'm like, and I know Ford is behind the 8 ball here, but still 3rd, 2nd, 7th. He's a streaky driver, Blaney. And now he's streaking well again. And so why not go and give him a chance? And Wallace, the deciding factor, even though it's not the same car, he won last year leading 58 laps. He was 4th in Vegas. Yep. So there's something about these tracks that he's feeling pretty good at. That's the reason why I threw I threw $10 on him as well.
Yeah, and said he was good at Vegas in the spring. And remember the fall last year at Vegas?
Yeah.
He was good. It's when the him and Kyle Larson incident came. They wrecked while, I think it was 1st and 2nd. They were running up front. So whatever reason, these mama have tracks that are shaped like this are his bread and butter. So his bread and butter on a cookie cutter track. I'm going to go with him at 18-1. It just feels like you said, the Toyota car. He's got Reddick now with him, who knows to get a way around there. He also knows how to wreck, but he knows the lead. So I just feel like the combo, 23-11's got some momentum at Kansas. So if especially for Bubba in a year, so you don't have to rely on your return in Atlanta or Daytona later. You won here last year. You win here again, and you can get yourself into a playoff spot. So this is a good opportunity for him. And for 18-1, I thought it was a fair number to snag him.
Yeah, I mean, Harvick? Or does it...
He was a tough one because, like you said, I just feel like the whole Stewart-Haas camp does not have race-winning speed right now. I just don't feel like they have it. Even on a late pit strategy, they're getting closer to the point as we keep getting more and more new winners that if you don't have a shot at winning, I feel like you kind of got to position yourself to maximize points. Because like Truex mentioned last year, he was fourth in points and he missed the playoffs. So you kind of risk the gamble and everything is like, hey, 2 tires, 4 tires, maybe let's play it safe and let's get out there and let's get out of here to a good finish. We don't have the car to win, but we can get a top 5. I feel like they're starting to enter that zone. So I just don't feel comfortable at 18-1 with him on that. When Wallace is the same odds, who's proven he can win there.
Logano 22-1. I was the only reason I was thinking about Logano was because you're getting 22-1 with Joey Logano, which I think is a little ridiculous to tell you the truth. And he does have 3 wins at the racetrack, but he had some problems in Vegas, and last year he was really bad. Most importantly, so he didn't do anything here last year, and he's coming off a 31st and a 30th in his last 2, and 3 of his last 4 are in the 30s. But still, you are getting 22-1, so that's something I was considering. And then the 35-1 shots, you got Gibbs, Suarez, and Keselowski. And I was also thinking about Keselowski, just because he's had a couple wins there, and he's seems to be back into a nice, couple of races back to back, both top 10s, and he's getting 35-1. Suarez, I don't see anything special here with him, and he's still kind of in a slump. And Gibbs, just because he's a rookie and all that stuff, I just decided to stay away from him. Even though he is doing okay, he still does not have a race better than 9th this year. But again, out of all those drivers we've talked about, you did put a few bucks on Gibbs.
Yeah, I just felt because of the Toyota, the factor, and he had a top 5 going in Dover. If the team got the gas tank filled, I really do feel like he would have had a shot at winning that thing in the end, because you never know how that final pit stop would have came out. But he had to save fuel because they were 7 laps short, and he went from top 5 to outside the top 10, and he got himself back around it. So Toyota, as I said, Kyle Busch won in this car in 2021. Granted, it wasn't the next gen, but I just feel like he's just getting closer and closer. And I'm just going in with Toyota versus Hendrick again this week, and 35-1, I would be remiss if I skipped out on him when he's that far down. So, plus, as you said, there's no really other long shots that are worth anything to take here. And the one thing too, and Penske, as you said, I thought about Logano. I mean, 22-1 was a good number, but he's finished 15th or worse in 6 of his last 8 there. And on the season, he's been 30th or worse in 3 of his last 4 weeks. So they're reeling. They're going backwards. Hendrick, his last 5 finishes on the season, 28th, 19th, 33rd, 26th, and 26th. I mean, he's 100-1. You think, hey, Penske guy 100-1, just take him anyways. But there's nothing about those results that tell me, oh, that guy's going to win on Sunday. So Penske's got to get it turned around. Blaney, good week last week. Can he keep it up? We'll see what he could do. So he was a smart play at 18. But past that, as you said, there's just really nobody there. And the one thing that I did notice in 2011, every Kansas winner has won a championship minus Hamlin or Bubba. That's it. Everybody else that's won there, they've won a championship in the Cup Series. So that scared me a little bit with Gibbs and being a rookie. It's like, well, these guys that win there are all veterans. And if you really go back since the track opened, Hamlin, Ryan Newman, Mark Martin, Greg Biffle, Joe Nemechek, and Bubba are the only drivers to win at Kansas and have no Cup titles to their name. And those are some pretty good drivers. I mean, Newman, Mark Martin, Greg Biffle, Hamlin. I mean, those So do I really think Gibbs is going to come out here and win? Not necessarily, but 35-1, they could gamble late. You never know.
I mean, taking a long shot is always, especially for just a few bucks, there's nothing wrong with that. And if you look at it too, remember when he finished 31st at Talladega, he had the same issues. It was running out of gas. So
twice now, yeah. Granted, that wasn't their fault. That was the extra overtime. Sure. But you take the gas out of it. Yeah. He's 2 straight top fives coming in this week. Yeah, absolutely. So you get him for 35-1, which, hey, I think that's saying a lot for a rookie driver. And, I mean, you get Austin Cindric, who won the Daytona 500 last year. Granted, you're not comparing Daytona to Kansas, but he's with Team Penske. He's 100-1. Yes. And you get a rookie driver at 35-1. And
I was thinking about that. That was the one long shot that I circled. That I was like, pretty decent last year. Good at Vegas, 100-1. So, so I might even – I mean, you know what? I think that even if you just wait on Cindric to see how he qualifies, you're still going to end up with 35 or 50-1.
Yeah, I don't think they can chop it less than 50-1. If you're at 100-1 now, I think he's still – even if he's on the pole, I think the most he goes is 50-1. I don't know how you could take someone from 100-1 to 20-1 just because of the pole.
Yeah, they could do it.
They could. It's Vegas. They'll screw it up somehow. But yeah, I mean, you just got to feel like him and these sophomore drivers in NASCAR got to start figuring this out soon because they're going backwards. Harrison Burton's not done much. He's not done much. So maybe this is their week.
And Gibbs finished first and third in his last 2 Xfinity Series races.
And I think he won a couple ARCA races there too.
What's that?
I think he won a couple ARCA races there too. So yeah, So it's good track for him.
Briscoe and Berry are 65-1, but Briscoe hasn't shown much as a Cup driver. He does have an Xfinity win at this track. He was on a nice run until last week. It's interesting that his odds. Did you notice his future odds dropped from 80 to 50?
That's why I put another 100 on him just in case.
So there you go.
I noticed that.
Yeah. Anyway, and then Berry takes over for Bowman, who finished third in Vegas. So take a look at that. We mentioned Cindric. Buescher, by the way, has a 9th and a 3rd in his last 2 races. 3 top 10s out of 14. Almirola has 7 top 10s, but a lot of them were earlier on in his career. You mentioned Dillon with 5 top 10s. Jones has 3 top 5s in 13, but he hasn't really fared well there lately. And most of the other guys have done nothing. All right.
One of those weeks. Yep.
Yeah, it is. So and it could just be one of those races too. Let's hope not. We have Darlington after this?
Yes. Darlington will be next Sunday.
So Darlington and then New Hampshire?
No, North Wilkesboro. The All-Star race.
Wilkesboro. The All-Star race. Okay. So we have and then the big day.
Yep.
All right. So Darlington, what are we doing at Darlington? What are we looking forward to there?
That's the throwback race. So it'll be an old school type race. I'm sure May. I saw Kansas supposed to be in the 80s this weekend, so I'd assume it's going to be hot, slick.
Well, didn't they change, because they were doing, those races used to be just dead boring.
Yeah.
Where did they change it to the daytime last year?
Yep.
Did it get any better?
A little bit, yeah. It also it was a little bit cooler, and I remember there was some cloud cover. But if it's South Carolina sun beating on that track in May, you could definitely, I think it would improve that show. So,
what's that similar to, Darlington?
Homestead, I'd say, is probably your closest.
But nothing this year so far?
No, the only thing you look at is probably Richmond because the tire fall off. Maybe a little bit of Dover, not style of race or anything like that. It'd be more or less the tire fall off because Darlington, your tire is going to fall off like a cliff the longer you go. So you're just going to look at guys that had their cars better on a longer run than they do shorter, which seems to be the same guys every week anyways who get that way. So I don't expect much different. I think that the usual suspects that are good at Darlington are going to be good this time around.
You know that 3 of the top 5 drivers in the standings are 14-1, 18-1, and 18-1 this week. So
goes to show you that it also goes to show you how I think points are still relevant, as I said before, because the playoff point aspect by the time you get to the regular season finale. But it also goes to show you how the points are kind of irrelevant. Because I bet you if you ask most NASCAR fans who's leading the points right now, they probably have no idea.
No.
I feel like they never talk about points. We talk about more wins and playoff standings, not the actual points. But yeah, Chastain, Bell, and those are the guys right now that are up top, and they don't really even talk about them.
I'm putting together a video that I hope will get posted without any ad blocks, because I haven't done one of these yet, and I know how difficult YouTube is when it comes to taking, especially if you're taking movie clips. And I'm putting together a list of 5 top sports movie endings, and the editing is just, I mean, it's taken me, especially since I haven't done this before, it's taken me like a week and a half to do 5 plus a bonus, so 6, just having to edit to make sure that you don't have more than 4 or 5 seconds at a time per clip. It's and then you got to match up with the music. It's just real difficult. So I hope that all this hard work will pay off. And I bring this up because in one of these movies has something called the Little 500. And how familiar are you with that movie?
I know if it's like around the Little 500 down at IU, it's a bike race,
yes,
but not with the movie. I've never actually seen the movie.
So you've never seen the movie with the finish of the movie surrounding the Little 500.
I haven't. I'm not a big movie guy. If you haven't seen, right. I have seen a lot of.
Well,
sports
dude,
movies,
the movie took place in Indiana, at Indiana College, basically on the campus.
Yeah.
So the fact that you haven't watched it, and I
haven't seen it,
and it's my second best sports movie ending ever. You have to go see the movie Breaking Away.
Okay, I need to watch it. And Hoosiers make your list. Have you seen that?
Yes,
seen that movie?
Hoosiers did.
Okay, Hoosiers. I have that game ball, the real one.
The real game ball.
From 1954.
How do you have the game ball?
My grandpa used to make it's either the medals or the rings for the state championship. So
you mean the real game ball?
Yeah, the real game ball.
From the real
shot. Yeah, from that real game. And in like early 80s, that ball, because that movie is what made, that was a big deal here in Indiana. But the movie is what really made it national. It really blew that thing up. But he bought the ball at one of the auctions that he was invited to because he made the medals, or I can't remember which one, medals or rings, but nevertheless, he bought it. And then I used to love that ball. And then when he passed, my grandma gave it to me and said he probably would let me have it.
Did you price it?
I haven't, because I called the head of the high school basketball or high school sports and journal here in Indiana, and the school. I was like, I have something you may want, but every time they're not willing to pay for it, they wanted me to donate it. I'm like, I'm not even giving that thing away. I got it given to me if it's from my family. Like, I feel bad. It's like, oh, here you go. You can display it, and I want it back. So I have no idea what that thing would be worth. I kept it because my grandma never wanted me to sell it. So.
I mean, it's depending on how much it would be in value. But if you don't need it to, you don't need the cash, then sure. I mean. Yeah,
because we don't, and
you just keep passing it along.
Yeah, I do feel bad that it's just hanging in my closet right now on like a shelf, because my wife doesn't like me to explain it a lot because she doesn't want somebody to steal it.
You should insure it.
Not that. I need to get insured, but
that's how you get it valued.
Yep. And the problem too with it, the value of it, I feel like decreases each year because we don't have single class basketball in Indiana anymore. We haven't since like the mid '90s. So there's a lot of this generation coming, these newer kids. They don't even know what. I mean, a single class. What is that?
Is there anybody? Is there anybody that signed it?
Yeah, the guy that hit the shot.
You know how much more value it would be if you had Jimmy Chitwood sign it?
I know. Having him getting it would be. One of my dad's friends was Buddy.
Oh yeah. Played, Buddy. That was Buddy, the one that got thrown out in the first practice.
Yep. He went to Center Grove. I'm wearing a Center Grove basketball. Look at that. Wearing a shirt. Yeah. He played. I think he played with my uncle. But yeah.
And who's that?
Buddy.
Who was he in relation to again?
No, he's not. He was a friend. I think with my uncle. I think they graduated together. But family friend. My family knows him.
Yeah, that unfortunately his scene got cut in the movie.
His dad,
when he comes back.
Shooter. Yeah, when he.
You can see. Apparently, you can see that on YouTube. I keep forgetting to check it out. Okay, that'd be interesting to find out how did he get back into his good graces or apologize or whatever, because it's so funny. You're like not even realizing it. You're watching the movie, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, wait a second. How does he back in the game? How's he playing for them again? I didn't hear his apology.
Yep. There was a lot of that movie. I actually was when I worked at my previous job, Bobby Plump spoke at one of our events, and I actually talked to him about at that time, my grandpa had the ball. I didn't have it yet. And I was asked to talk about the movie and real life, and he told me that a lot of that movie was made off of his junior year. A lot of what you saw was the year before. A lot of the storylines. The coach wasn't like this hard-pressed older guy.
I mean, we know it wasn't really a true
He was a 23-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the game, it wasn't the same school. It was a Muncie school they played, not a South Bend school. And but then standing and holding the ball, he said, was a completely true story. Where he held the ball for most of that fourth quarter, and the crowd was cheering, and they got the ball, but they're holding it for the final shot. And he said that was true. However, it wasn't true to set up a play. It was true, he said, because the coach was scared shitless. He had no idea what to tell him to do. He was afraid that they'd shoot it and miss it, and they'd lose the game. So he basically told him to hold the ball because he was like a 23-year-old out of college, and he had no idea what to tell them to do. And he said the play that they called in the huddle wasn't the same. The picket fence, he goes, that wasn't the play we called. In fact, the ball, I was supposed to take the ball out. And he said it ended up, the guy that we ran the play for didn't want the ball, so we switched spots and he gave me the ball, and I did hit the shot in the corner. That was true, but that wasn't the play that was called. So, but yeah, the whole measuring the 10 foot and all that was true. He said they did do that, but there's bits and pieces of that were from his junior year, not the senior year. And a true story, the year after that, Oscar Robertson, his team won state championship here in Indiana.
Very cool. See, I mean, it's very rare you get these movies to just click, because I'm pretty sure Gene Hackman never thought the movie was going to really amount to anything.
Yeah, because the budget was low, and I don't think he really thought that would turn out. Yeah. From what I read, that it would just be a kind of a flop.
Yeah, so you just never know. It's just everything just has to align right. It's not easy making movies, and then to make one that's actually that memorable, it's really difficult. So that's why I wanted to put something like that together, because like you just said, you've never even seen it. So hopefully, again, I hope that I hope that they don't tell me to keep editing the damn thing, but at least if they do, they'll give me a chance to get it to the point where I can post it. And then B, I hope that they allow me to, if it does wind up getting several hundred or 1,000 views over time, I hope I can make money off of it and they don't take that away from me. But It's a good test. I guess I get to see exactly how they'll handle it, but I can't imagine it's going to be difficult, because the fact is I'm basically promoting the movies. I'm saying, look how good these movie endings are. Go watch them. So I can't imagine why would they want to take that away. So, but we'll see.
You wouldn't think so, but you never know these places.
So go see Breaking Away.
I will.
See it with your son. He'll enjoy it.
There you go. Yeah.
He can enjoy it. It's not. There's no. I don't think there's any cursing or anything like that. So, yeah, I probably saw it when he was your son's age anyway. All right. So next week, Darlington. Then on to the All-Star game, the All-Star race, and then the Coke 600, Indy 500. And by the way, you are going to be at Indianapolis Motor Speedway starting when?
Next Friday.
Next
week.
Friday.
Yep.
Okay, so a week from Friday.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So starting next week, Eric will start popping in and out on the channel from Indianapolis for the 3 weeks. What is it? 3 weeks up until the 500.
Pretty much 3. Yeah, we'll have, instead of this picture background, we'll have like a pagoda or something behind. We'll have a live shot behind me.
That'll work. Especially anything live on site. That'll work too.
Yep.
All right, Eric. Appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you hopefully next Tuesday.
Yep. Hopefully so.